Right now, as you're watching this, there's a version of you that exists somewhere in the future. Not in some mystical dimension or parallel universe, but in the very real timeline of your own life. And that future version of yourself has been trying to get your attention for longer than you realize. They've been dropping breadcrumbs, sending signals, creating moments of clarity that you've probably dismissed as coincidence or wishful thinking. But here's what's wild about this moment, about you being here right now. Your future self isn't just hoping you'll stumble across this message. They orchestrated it. They've been pulling strings behind the scenes of your consciousness, creating the exact circumstances that would lead you to this precise point in time where you're finally ready to receive what they've been desperately trying to tell you. You know that feeling you get sometimes, usually in quiet moments, when you're not distracted by your phone or your to-do list or other people's demands on your attention. That subtle but persistent sense that you're meant for something different than what you're currently living. That's not your imagination running wild. That's not some romanticized fantasy about a better life. That's your future self, reaching back through time, trying to remind you of who you really are underneath all the layers of compromise, settling and playing it safe. Most people ignore these moments. They brush them off as daydreaming or unrealistic expectations. They convince themselves that feeling dissatisfied with their current reality is somehow ungrateful or selfish. They've been conditioned to believe that wanting more, wanting different, wanting better is a character flaw rather than a soul calling. But you're not most people. If you were, you wouldn't be here right now, feeling that familiar stirring in your chest as these words land in places you forgot existed. Your future self has been watching you make decisions based on fear instead of vision. They've seen you choose comfort over growth, security over possibility, other people's approval over your own inner knowing. And they're not judging you for it. They understand why you made those choices. They remember the circumstances, the pressures, the voices telling you to be practical, to be realistic, to stop chasing impossible dreams. But they also know something you're just beginning to suspect. Those dreams weren't impossible. They were just inconvenient for the version of yourself that was afraid of what it might cost to pursue them. The version that was terrified of disappointing people, of failing publicly, of discovering you weren't as capable as you hoped. So you made the safe choices, the sensible choices, the choices that kept you small enough to avoid criticism and comfortable enough to avoid real risk. And for a while, that worked. You built a life that looked reasonable from the outside. You checked the boxes that society told you mattered. You followed the script that promised security, acceptance, and a predictable path to a predictable happiness. But somewhere along the way, you started noticing the gap between what your life looked like and what it felt like. The space between who you appeared to be and who you knew you could become. That gap is where your future self lives. They exist in the space between your current reality and your untapped potential. They're not some perfected version of you that has everything figured out. They're simply the version that stopped making decisions based on what might go wrong and started making them based on what might go right. The version that chose expansion over contraction, possibility over certainty, growth over stagnation. Here's what your future self wants you to understand about the path you're on right now. Every single experience you've had, every setback, every moment of doubt, every time you felt like you were falling behind or making the wrong choices, all of it was necessary preparation, not punishment, not proof of your inadequacy. Preparation. You've been developing muscles you didn't even know you were building. Resilience muscles, adaptation muscles, the kind of inner strength that only comes from navigating uncertainty without a guarantee of how things will turn out. Your future self can see the pattern that you can't see yet. How every closed door led you to an open window. How every rejection redirected you towards something better, aligned with who you're becoming. How every moment of confusion was actually clarity trying to break through the noise of what you thought you were supposed to want. They want you to know that the skills you've been developing in your current situation, even if it feels completely wrong for you, are exactly the skills you'll need for what's coming next. The patience you've learned dealing with difficult people will serve you when you're building something that matters. The creativity you've had to summon to solve problems